It's a new year, and already you've seen the posts, the videos, the promises, everyone talking about goals, habits, routines, systems. New year, new you, become unrecognizable, 10x your life. And maybe you've even made some promises yourself. You're going to train harder, eat cleaner, wake up earlier, build that thing you've been putting off. And those things matter. They do. But here's what no one's telling you. None of it will last if you don't change the way you think. Because your habits are downstream from your thoughts. Your actions are downstream from your beliefs. Your results are downstream from the lens you use to see the world. And if that lens is the same one you've been using, if the operating system running your mind is the same broken software from last year, from 5 years ago, from your entire life, then it doesn't matter how hard you work. You'll just be running faster on the same treadmill, going nowhere, burning out, and wondering why nothing ever really changes. The Stoics understood something most people miss. They didn't focus on changing circumstances. They focused on changing perception, because circumstances are temporary. But the way you think about circumstances, that determines everything. How you respond, how you feel, what you do next, whether you grow or stay stuck. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not the quality of your outcomes, not the quality of your situation, the quality of your thoughts. So this isn't another video about what to do this year. This is about how to think this year, about rewiring the patterns that have been running your life without your permission, about upgrading the mental models that determine whether you see obstacles or opportunities, whether you feel trapped or free, whether you become more or stay the same. Because when you change the way you think, everything else follows, not the other way around. What you're about to hear will make you uncomfortable. Some of these shifts will challenge beliefs you've held your entire life. Some will expose ways you've been lying to yourself. And some will demand that you let go of stories that have kept you safe but small. But if you're still here, if you're ready to actually change and not just rearrange, then let's begin. Not with motivation, with truth, the kind that doesn't let you hide anymore. Shift 1, from "why is this happening to me" to "what is this teaching me?" The question you ask shapes the answer you find, and most people are asking the wrong question. When something goes wrong, when life hits them with hardship, rejection, failure, loss, their first instinct is to ask, "Why is this happening to me?" And that question, innocent as it sounds, turns you into a victim. It assumes the universe is doing something to you, that you're being singled out, that you're being punished. And from that place, there's nowhere to go but resentment, self-pity, and paralysis. But what if you asked a different question? What if instead of "why me," you asked, "What is this teaching me?" That shift, that one reframe, changes everything. Because now you're not a victim, you're a student. You're not being punished, you're being educated. And every hardship, every setback, every moment of struggle becomes information, data, feedback, a lesson you needed but didn't ask for. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And your reaction starts with the question you ask. When you ask, "Why me?" you're giving power to the event. You're letting it define you. But when you ask, "What is this teaching me?" you're taking power back. You're deciding that this moment, no matter how painful, has something to offer, and you're going to extract it. This doesn't mean you pretend pain doesn't exist. It doesn't mean you slap a positive spin on everything and call it growth. It means you refuse to let pain be wasted. You refuse to suffer without gaining something from it. Because suffering is inevitable. Learning from it is optional. And the difference between those two is the question you ask. So this year, every time something doesn't go your way, every time you face difficulty, pause before you spiral. Catch yourself asking, "Why me?" and replace it with, "What am I supposed to learn from this?" Maybe it's teaching you patience. Maybe it's showing you where you're weak. Maybe it's redirecting you away from something that wasn't meant for you. Maybe it's building the resilience you'll need for what's coming next. But there's always something. And when you train yourself to look for it, when you become someone who learns instead of complains, you become unstoppable. Because nothing is wasted, everything is fuel. Shift 2, from needing control to practicing acceptance. You want control. It's human. You want to control outcomes, people, circumstances, the future. You want guarantees. You want to know that if you do X, you'll get Y. That if you work hard enough, care enough, plan enough, everything will work out. But here's the truth that's going to set you free and terrify you at the same time. You don't control any of it. Not really. You can influence. You can prepare. You can give your best effort. But you cannot control outcomes. You cannot control how people respond to you. You cannot control whether the market shifts, whether the opportunity comes, whether the relationship lasts, whether your health holds. And the more you try to control what you can't, the more you suffer. Because control is an illusion, and clinging to illusions makes you weak. This is where acceptance comes in. Not passive acceptance, not giving up, but stoic acceptance. The kind that sees reality clearly and works with it instead of against it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" That's the shift. From fighting reality to flowing with it. From demanding life be different to accepting what is and choosing your response. Most people think acceptance is surrender. It's not. Surrender is giving up. Acceptance is waking up. It's seeing that you've been exhausting yourself, trying to control things that were never yours to control. And when you let go of that need, when you stop trying to micromanage the universe, you gain something far more valuable. You gain peace. You gain clarity. You gain the ability to focus all your energy on the only things you actually control: your thoughts, your actions, your character, your effort. This year, practice distinguishing between what you can control and what you can't. And when you catch yourself stressing over the latter, let it go. Not because you don't care, but because caring about things you can't control is just suffering with extra steps. Save your energy for what you can actually change. And watch how much lighter you become when you stop carrying the weight of the world. Shift 3. From external validation to internal standards. You're addicted to approval. Maybe you don't think you are. Maybe you tell yourself you don't care what people think. But watch your behavior. Watch how much energy you spend trying to prove yourself, trying to impress, trying to be chosen, trying to make sure people see you the right way. That's the addiction, and it's killing your freedom. Because when you need external validation, you give other people power over your peace. You make your worth dependent on their opinion. And their opinion, it changes. It's inconsistent. It's often based on their own insecurities, biases, and limited perspective. So you're building your life on sand. And every time someone doesn't validate you, doesn't recognize you, doesn't choose you, you collapse. And you wonder why you feel so fragile. The shift is this. Stop measuring yourself by external metrics and start measuring yourself by internal standards. Stop asking, do they think I'm good enough? And start asking, am I living according to my values? Stop seeking approval and start seeking integrity, because approval is fleeting. Integrity is permanent. Approval comes from others. Integrity comes from you. Seneca wrote, "If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If according to opinion, you will never be rich." Living according to opinion means you're always chasing, always needing more validation, more recognition, more proof that you matter. But living according to your own nature, your own principles, your own standards, that's wealth, that's freedom, because you're no longer dependent on anyone else to tell you you're enough. You know you're enough because you're living aligned. This doesn't mean you ignore feedback. It means you choose whose feedback matters. It means you stop letting random people on the internet, or jealous colleagues, or family members who don't understand your path determine how you feel about yourself. You build your own scoreboard, and you measure yourself by whether you kept your word, whether you showed up with integrity, whether you did your best with what you had. That's the only metric that matters. This year, every time you catch yourself performing for approval, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it aligns with who I want to be, or because I'm afraid of what they'll think if I don't? And if it's the latter, walk away. Choose yourself, choose your standards, choose integrity over image, and watch how much more solid you become when your foundation is internal instead of external. Shift 4, from future anxiety to present action. You're worried about the future. What if it doesn't work out? What if you fail? What if you're not ready? What if you make the wrong choice? And that worry, that constant projection into tomorrow, is stealing your today. Because while you're anxious about what might happen, you're not present for what is happening. You're not taking the action that would actually change the future you're worried about. This is the trap. Anxiety about the future keeps you stuck in inaction, and inaction guarantees that the future you're worried about becomes more likely. So you're creating the very thing you fear by being too afraid to move. That's the cycle. And the only way to break it is to shift from future anxiety to present action. The Stoics were obsessed with the present moment, not because the future doesn't matter, but because the present is the only place where you have power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." And what he meant was this: stop living in the hypothetical future and start living in the actual now, because now is where decisions are made. Now is where action happens. Now is where your life is actually being built. When you're anxious about the future, ask yourself, what can I do right now? Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now, in this moment. What's one small step you can take? What's one action that moves you forward? Maybe it's making the call. Maybe it's writing the first paragraph. Maybe it's just showing up even though you're scared. Whatever it is, do it. And then ask the question again, what can I do now? And keep moving, one present moment at a time. This shift doesn't eliminate fear, it redirects it. Instead of letting fear paralyze you, you use it as a signal that something matters, that you care, that you're on the edge of growth. And you move anyway, not because you're fearless, but because you've learned that action is the antidote to anxiety. That the best way to feel better about the future is to do something about it now. This year, every time you catch yourself spiraling into future worry, bring yourself back to now. What's in front of you? What needs to be done? What small action can you take? And then take it. Because the future isn't built through worry, it's built through a series of present moments where you chose action over anxiety. String enough of those together, and the future you were worried about becomes the past you're proud of. Shift 5. From scarcity to abundance. You think there's not enough time, not enough opportunities, not enough success to go around, not enough love, recognition, resources. And that scarcity mindset makes you small. It makes you competitive in the wrong ways. It makes you hoard instead of share. It makes you resentful when others win because you believe their win means there's less for you. And that's a prison, because scarcity is a lie. Not in the sense that resources are infinite, but in the sense that your focus on lack creates more lack. When you operate from scarcity, you make decisions from fear. You hold back. You play it safe. You don't take risks because you can't afford to lose what little you think you have. And that fear keeps you stuck right where you are, never growing, never expanding, never stepping into the abundance that's available to you. The shift to abundance doesn't mean pretending you have more than you do. It means recognizing what you already have and building from there. It means seeing that there are always opportunities if you're willing to create them, that there's always a way forward if you're resourceful enough to find it, that someone else's success doesn't diminish yours, that the pie isn't fixed, that you can make your own pie. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." That's abundance thinking. When you stop needing more to be happy, when you stop comparing yourself to others, when you stop believing that you're behind or missing out, you free yourself. You see that you have enough to start, enough to build, enough to contribute, and from that place of enough, you can create more. This year, practice abundance. When someone succeeds, celebrate them. Their win doesn't take from you. When you see an opportunity, act on it. There will be more. When you have knowledge, share it. Teaching others doesn't make you less valuable. It makes you more. When you feel fear around scarcity, ask yourself, what do I already have that I can use? And start building from there. Because abundance isn't about having everything. It's about using what you have fully instead of hoarding it in fear. Shift 6. From reaction to response. You're reactive. Someone says something that bothers you, you snap back. Something doesn't go your way, you complain. You feel an emotion, you act on it immediately, and that reactivity is running your life. Because when you react, you're not in control. Your environment is, your emotions are, other people are. You've given them the remote control to your behavior. But there's a space, a tiny gap between stimulus and response, between what happens and what you do about it. And in that gap lives all your power. That's where you shift, from reaction to response. Reaction is automatic, unconscious, driven by pattern and emotion. Response is intentional, conscious, driven by values and choice. Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps, said it best. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That's the shift. From reacting like you're on autopilot to responding like you're awake. From being controlled by your triggers to choosing your actions. This requires practice. It requires slowing down. When something triggers you, before you speak, before you act, pause, breathe, count to 3. Ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Is this response aligned with my values? And if it's not, choose differently. You don't have to say the thing you want to say. You don't have to do the thing your emotion is pushing you toward. You can choose restraint. You can choose calm. You can choose the response that serves your future instead of your feelings. This year, every time you feel the urge to react, practice the pause. Feel the emotion, name it, and then decide what you're going to do with it. Are you going to let it drive, or are you going to drive? Because the moment you learn to respond instead of react, you become free. Free from being controlled by your moods, free from being manipulated by others, free from patterns that have been running your life without your consent. That's power, real power, and it's available to you in every moment you remember to pause. Shift 7. From I can't to I haven't yet. The words you use shape the reality you live in, and one of the most dangerous phrases you can say is, I can't. Because when you say, I can't, you close the door. You tell your brain to stop looking for solutions. You accept limitation as permanent. And maybe it's true in this moment that you don't know how. But I can't is different from I haven't yet. I can't is final. I haven't yet is possibility. I can't, says the door, is closed. I haven't yet, says the door, is just locked. And you need to find the key. I can't keeps you stuck. I haven't yet keeps you moving. And that shift in language rewires your brain. It keeps you in a growth mindset. It keeps you looking for ways instead of accepting walls. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset proved this. People who believe their abilities are fixed struggle more and quit faster than people who believe their abilities can be developed. And the difference often comes down to the language they use. I'm not good at this versus I'm not good at this yet. That one word, yet, changes everything, because it implies that with time, with effort, with learning, you can get better, and that belief drives behavior. This year, catch yourself every time you say, I can't. Stop, rephrase. I can't do this becomes, I haven't figured this out yet. I can't change becomes, I haven't changed yet. I can't get past this becomes, I haven't found the way past this yet. That small shift in language creates a massive shift in possibility, because you're no longer accepting defeat. You're just acknowledging current state while leaving room for future growth. And here's what happens when you practice this consistently. You start to believe it. You start to see that the things you thought were impossible were just unfamiliar, that the walls you thought were permanent were just difficult, that the limitations you accepted were just current constraints, not final verdicts. And when you believe that, when you operate from not yet instead of never, you become someone who doesn't quit, someone who keeps looking, someone who finds ways. And that person achieves things the I can't version never will. Integration. These 7 shifts aren't separate practices. They're different angles of the same transformation. The transformation from unconscious living to intentional living. From being run by your patterns to running your patterns. From letting circumstances determine your state to determining your state regardless of circumstances. When you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what can I learn, you take your power back. When you release the need for control and practice acceptance, you find peace. When you build internal standards instead of chasing external validation, you become solid. When you shift from future anxiety to present action, you actually change what's coming. When you move from scarcity to abundance, you unlock generosity and creativity. When you respond instead of react, you become free. And when you replace I can't with I haven't yet, you step into possibility. This is how you change the way you think, not by trying harder, not by forcing positivity, but by consciously choosing different questions, different perspectives, different language, and doing it again and again and again until the new way of thinking becomes automatic, until you don't have to remind yourself, until it's just who you are. The Stoics knew that philosophy isn't about theory, it's about practice. It's about applying principles daily until they reshape you. Marcus Aurelius wasn't writing meditations for anyone else. He was reminding himself every day how to think, how to see, how to be. And that daily practice, that constant return to truth, is what made him one of the greatest minds in history. You have the same tool, the same access, the same ability to reshape your thinking. You just have to commit to it. Not just this week, not just when you're motivated, every day, for the rest of your life. Because changing the way you think isn't a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. And the dividends it pays, the freedom it creates, the person it shapes you into, is worth every moment of effort. Call to reflect. So here's what you do. Pick one shift, not all 7. One, the one that hit you hardest. The one you've been avoiding. The one that makes you uncomfortable because you know it's true. And for the next 30 days, practice it every single day. Catch yourself thinking the old way and consciously choose the new way. If it's the first shift, every time something goes wrong, stop yourself from asking, why me? And ask, what is this teaching me? If it's the second shift, every time you try to control what you can't, let it go and focus on what you can. If it's the third shift, every time you seek validation, redirect to your internal standards. Practice whichever one you chose until it becomes natural, until you don't have to think about it, but until it's just the way your mind works now. And once that shift is solid, once it's integrated, pick another, and over time, layer by layer, you'll rebuild your entire operating system. You'll change not just what you do, but how you see, how you process, how you experience reality. And that change, that fundamental rewiring, is what actually creates a new life, not new habits, new thinking. This year doesn't have to be like the last. It doesn't have to be another cycle of good intentions and eventual collapse. It can be different, but only if you're willing to do the one thing most people avoid. Change the way you think, not what you think about, but how you think. The lens you use, the questions you ask, the beliefs you operate from. That's where transformation lives. That's where freedom is found. That's where you finally become who you've always had the potential to be. The world doesn't need another year of you trying harder with the same broken software. It needs you upgraded, operating from truth instead of pattern, from consciousness instead of conditioning, from choice instead of compulsion. Stay focused, stay grounded, and remember, the quiet work you do inside your mind today is shaping the life you'll live tomorrow. This is your year, but only if you change the way you think.